And trust me, if you're filming a wedding by yourself, it's just one less thing for you to stress out about. What's up, guys? Today I want to do a deep dive into my own personal wedding video kit. I've filmed dozens of weddings by myself at this point, and I've learned a lot of lessons the hard way when it comes to camera gear. Everything in my kit has been tested at actual weddings, and if I can rely on it, I know you can too. It's gonna be kind of a longer video today, so I'll leave chapter markers in the description below if you want to skip around. With that, let's get started with cameras. So I personally love the A7S III. It satisfies everything that I need to make my life easier as a wedding videographer. The main things that I'm looking for are capability. This thing shoots 4K up to 120 frames per second in H.265. Doesn't even take up that much space. Reliability, I put it through a lot of paces. I shoot in a lot of different temperatures. I bang it around in the bag. I'm not gentle with my equipment at all. And redundancy, it does shoot to 2 cards at once. So it will record simultaneously to 2 SD cards at the same time. I know that seems super simple, but honestly, we only got that capability in our cameras like 2-3 years ago, and so it's still kind of a big deal to me. Redundancy is huge, and you'll see that throughout all the equipment in my bag. I've learned the hard way that you gotta have backups. You never wanna rely on a single point of failure, because when that point fails, you're screwed. So Sony A7S III. In addition to amazing autofocus, excellent codecs, S-Log3 with great dynamic range, and the high ISO, I mean, 12,800 ISO cleans up on this camera like it's ISO 400. It's amazing. In addition to that, this thing is just reliable and so easy to customize. I love that I can customize all the buttons to my own preferences. I can copy those preferences onto an SD card and transfer it right over to my B camera, so they're always identical. I'll do another video on this camera in the future talking about how I personally set it up for wedding videography. But for right now, just know that I think this is probably the best option on the market for what we do. I've got 2 of these, and then I have a C camera, which is the Sony A1. That camera is amazing. It basically has the best of everything that Sony offers, and honestly, it's more than we really need in our business, but I do use it for photos. I shoot 8K video with it sometimes. It's a pretty sweet C camera when it comes down to it, but it's a little overkill for wedding videos. I put cages on my A7S IIIs because, not because I'm gonna build them up. Actually, I like keeping my cameras as small as possible. I think the whole point that we use these hybrid cameras is to keep them small and light and nimble and easy to throw on a gimbal and transfer to a tripod. I don't wanna build this up as a rig. I don't want external monitors on this. I don't even really run a lot of external audio connected to these things. I just want this to protect the camera for the most part. And also, I like the option to have more than one faceplate screw. It keeps these things from twisting. I don't know about you, but it drives me crazy when I go to put a tripod plate on a DSLR and it only has one hole in it for the tripod plate. I know that thing's gonna twist and it's just gonna slowly aggravate me throughout the day. So another benefit of having the cage is that you get multiple mounting points for your base plate. I have the 8-sin cage on this one, and then I have a Tilta cage on my other one. And both of them are pretty affordable. I just want it to be a little bit sturdier. That's it. I really love the codecs in this camera because it keeps the file sizes small. It shoots H.265. And honestly, I know that's a super compressed codec, but whatever magic they do inside this camera, I haven't seen any loss of quality. It's 10-bit color, it's beautiful dynamic range. That, you know, we have a conversion LUT that we put on there and it's almost perfect just right out of the box. So really cannot recommend this camera enough. All right, one quick note on these things. You have amazing cameras in your pocket at this point. I can attest to this because I've actually had to use this in a pinch at an event. At the event, people were coming down an aisle and I was filming with my A1. I'm still not sure what I did, but I managed to figure out how to overheat the A1 at like the worst possible moment. Anyways, critical time, I get the overheat warning and my camera shuts down. So instead of freaking out, I just reach in my back pocket, grab this. I always have it set to 4K 60, and I'm just holding it like this while I'm holding my gimbal as people are going by. It probably just looked like I was getting like behind the scenes footage or something. And I was able to, you know, get the shot with this. It was absolutely beautiful. HDR footage, 4K 60, I mean, it's amazing. And I walked to the back of the venue, opened up the LCD screen on the camera, let it chill out for a little bit, switched to my other camera for coverage, and no one was any the wiser. These things are amazing. No, I don't want you using it on an actual wedding day unless you're in an absolute emergency, but it's better than getting nothing. So keep that in mind and keep this in your pocket. Okay, moving on to lenses. I bring 4 lenses to each wedding. 2 zoom lenses, and 2 prime lenses. By far my favorite lens is the 24-70. It's just the workhorse. This is the lens that is on my A camera, which is on the gimbal, which is in my hands for 95% of the day, and I'm probably gonna shoot 95% of the wedding with this lens. It's just so versatile. 24 on the wide end is pretty wide. It's not like ultra wide or anything, but it's plenty to get full body shots if you have a little bit of space to back up. It's really nice and doesn't distort too much if you wanna come in close and keep it wide so that you can get like a 3/4 shot or a waist up shot while still getting some of the environment around. But then you just quick zoom into 70 and you're punching in for details like her ring or his watch or just a glance of their faces as they're coming together. Like, it's just so easy to get a lot of variety of shots in a hurry with this lens. Honestly, if I just had 2 of these lenses, I could shoot the whole wedding with 2 cameras easily. I don't even need the other lenses in my bag because this is so good. So get a 24-70 2.8, you will not regret it. So my other zoom lens is the 14-24 mil. That's what's filming me on this camera right now, actually. I don't use the wide angle lens that often. It's kind of a specialty lens, so I only use it in tight spaces like tight getting ready rooms or small churches, you know, any space where I need to get a really wide shot because I'm limited and I can't physically back up far enough with the 24. It does have kind of a cool effect, you know, the lens does itself, and I can go into that another time, but I bring this lens, I don't always use it. Okay, so my 2 prime lenses are an 85 and a 135. You'll notice I have this green tape on the back of all my lens caps. It just helps me see it in the dark. Honestly, my whole camera bag is black, and I'm usually packing up when it's dark at a reception and people are dancing, or I'm outside and there's no lights. So I need to see where my stuff is. So I like the tape just because I like to stay organized, and it's easy to tell what lens I'm pulling out of where. The 135 is an amazingly sharp, beautiful telephoto lens. Basically, I have these lenses for 2 purposes. I run 3 cameras at my ceremonies. So on my B and C cameras, I like to have them telephoto so they're getting tight shots of, you know, the bride, groom, and officiant from one side, and then ultra tight of maybe just the bride's face from the other side. So I'll use the 135 during toasts, and that's just to snipe people who are laughing or clapping, you know, reactions basically to the people giving the toast. And I'll do that by setting up, like, my A camera will be a wide shot where you have the person giving the toast and the bride and groom all in one shot. And then I'll hold this, I'll just hand hold the camera with the 135, snipe people laughing and clapping and reacting, and then go back to ultra tight shot of the person giving the toast, all to mix in with toast. So that's a super important thing that I actually want to point out, and I'll do more videos in the future on actual techniques for capturing toast. But one thing that I know is super easy to miss as a solo videographer, I know this because I've missed it a lot of times, is the reaction. So that's why I like this lens. 135 is plenty of reach, and this thing is not very long. It is heavy, but it's not very long, so it's really easy to handhold and get those kinds of shots. SD cards, get a bunch of them. I personally like Angelbird 128 cards, as you can see. Sponsored, but I pay full price, so Angelbird, you wanna holler at me? I like 128 gigabyte cards. It seems to be good enough to get me through about half the day, if not a little bit more, before I need to swap them out. And they seem to be pretty reasonably priced. You can get them online. Maybe I'll put a link in or something, but I've never had an Angelbird card fail on me, but I don't care about that because they will fail. All SD cards will fail at some point. I mean, they're just flimsy little slivers of plastic basically, and they're getting thrown in and out of cameras, in and out of card readers, in and out of cases. They're only gonna last so long. So get a bunch of them, get decent ones, shoot simultaneous recording. I want you to record to 2 cards at the same time in your A camera all the time. That way, when you come home after a wedding, you can dump all your footage onto your computer, share it with us via Dropbox, put your second cards away, store them away for the weekend so that we know we have those in case something went wrong with the upload. And then you can format your, backup cards and use those for the next day's wedding. I do like these Polar Pro cases because they hold a bunch of SD cards. I can get 8 SD cards in here, and then I can also fit 2 micro SD cards beneath each one of them. Both my lav mics, my main external audio recorder is micro SD. So I like this case, gives me a lot of options to keep those secure. Battery chargers. Every camera comes with one now. Make sure you get a backup and just throw it in your bag and leave it in there. I've had the case where I thought I had a couple of charged batteries in my case, and the next day I went to put them in my camera and they were actually dead. And so I was just super happy to have this. I just went over to the reception area, found a plug, plugged one in, and by the time I got into reception, it was charged and I was ready to back it up. Filter holder. I like this one because it's small. It holds a bunch of filters in there. I don't know, 5 or 6 filters. I don't use them that often, but when I need one, I really like these Freewell ones. They come with a magnetic ring that you screw onto your lens, and that allows you to just literally pull off the ND filter when you don't want to use it, or just clip it back on whenever you want it. Super nice, super convenient, easy to keep your smudgy fingers off of the glass. And I just pop it back in this filter bag when I'm not using it and throw it back in my bag like I do everything. But I like those Freewell filters because they don't have a lot of color change. There's not a lot of like magenta or green tint to them. I don't use them a lot, but when I need one, I go with the Freewell. Batteries. In case you can't tell, I really like clear cases. I like them because I can see what's inside. I think I have 9 batteries at this point. Yes, I do have stickers on all of them because I'm a huge nerd, and because it's nice to be able to lend a charged battery to another person who has the same camera at a wedding, but it's not nice if you get a battery back that wasn't yours and it's been used for 3 years and is on its last legs. So I throw these little stickers on all my batteries. It makes it easy to keep them. I've got this lens pen. I love these lens pens. Check these out. It's really easy to just sweep away the dust with the brush end, or on the other side, if I have like an actual smudge that I would normally need to give a little bit more grip, then I can use this other end that is really good at getting rid of like little water drops or something. So yeah, lens pen's great. These are super cheap. I just order like 2 or 3 of them at a time because I do tend to lose these, and I just put them in every camera bag that I have. This guy, this little Nova Flex tool, I don't know where I got it, but probably B&H or Amazon, because those are my 2 favorite stores, I guess. Anyways, it's just got a bunch of different drivers on it, a lot of these hex tools, and some small Phillips and flathead screwdrivers. So it's nice. I like this little tool. It's really easy to manipulate, easier than like my pocket knife. I used to carry around like a Leatherman tool, but I really never ended up needing it. I just need like a quick screwdriver to like screw in base plates or adjust something on a cage. Honestly, I rarely need it. So nice to have, doesn't take up a lot of space in my little kit here. Before I get into audio and my audio kit, I want to talk a little bit about 32-bit float recording. 32-bit float recording is essentially a recording format that has an extremely wide dynamic range. And the benefit of that to you is you can essentially set it and forget it on wedding day. There'll be people who are audio specialists that will argue with me, but honestly, I put it to the test. The signal was completely blown out because the groom went from whispering to screaming, with excitement at the ceremony, and I was able to recover it in post. Basically, the file format 32-bit float is so wide that when you bring it into your editor in post, you can squeeze it down if it's too high, or you can spread it out if it's too low, and you're still gonna have a really nice clean feed. I don't know the science of it, but I do know that I have tried to break it and I cannot. So for that reason, all of my audio devices record in 32-bit float audio. And trust me, if you're filming a wedding by yourself, it's just one less thing for you to stress out about. You know that your audio is gonna be clean as long as you hit record and as long as the microphone is on the right person. So get yourself 32-bit float audio recording devices. My favorite lav pack is these Tentacle Sync Track E's. They're great because they're built pretty well. I mean, they are plastic, but they're pretty solid. They're not very big. They connect to an app, which is great. I'll show the app a little bit later. So if I want to, I can always just pull out my phone in my back pocket and double check the levels on both lavalier mics that are rolling. I don't often do that though, because I'm recording in 32-bit float. I'll look at it first just to make sure I'm recording, then I'll put it in my pocket and go about my business. But I like these because they record locally. I'm not a huge fan of mic packs that transmit to a receiver back on your camera. It doesn't happen a lot, but when your radio is actually transmitting through the air on the same frequencies that the DJ's microphone is transmitting on, they can interfere, and you can get a lot of different issues with the DJ's audio system. So if you want to keep your DJs happy, get a lavalier pack that records locally and doesn't transmit at all. I like these for another reason too. They come with professional connections for your lav mic. You can see the little threaded screw part on this. Pops on here, screws in like that. Anyone who's been doing this for a while, this is nothing new to you, but a lot of the consumer level lav packs now just have like your good old fashioned headphone port that plugs in. And I've had those things come apart when the groom sticks it in his jacket, or if he tries to move it from his jacket and put it in his pocket when you're not paying attention, and then you're basically worthless. You're not recording anything because there's no microphone. This is just a little basic microphone, you know, a lavalier microphone. I like them with the built-in windscreens. A lot of weddings are outdoors these days, and there's always going to be some level of wind. So it's nice to just have a basic small windscreen like this that's pretty much permanently affixed to the microphone. Then you don't have to think about it. I also have the big fuzzy windscreens for like beach weddings or when it's just particularly windy. So get yourself a couple of those as well. But bottom line is you definitely need one that has, you know, a clip on it and the windscreen on it. Not just the metal one. The metal one is not going to block the wind. These are great microphones. I think this is one that came with it. And they're great, but that's not going to provide any wind protection at all. That's just for, I don't even know what that's for because I'm not a sound guy, but it's there and it's not going to block the wind. So remember that. I've also got a couple of these. It's a digital recorder. It's pretty clean, honestly. It has a little microphone input here. It's really easy to just press record. It's got a little clip on the back that you can just throw on a groom's shirt or something. So I've used this in the past for a couple of different things. One would be a first look where the groom is gonna read like a letter or something important and they didn't tell me about it ahead of time. And I would love to have him mic'd up with a lavalier mic, but I don't have time. So I just keep this thing in my pocket. I press record. I just stick it in the you know, jacket pocket out front, and it gets pretty clean audio, much better than my on-camera audio. And then I can also kind of stay away an appropriate distance so that they can actually enjoy the moment. The other thing that I would do with this is I would hit record for toast and just drop this like in front of the bride and groom to record any comments that they might have back to the person giving them a toast. Almost never use it. I mean, it's almost always laughing or sometimes stuff that we can't put in the video anyways. So I don't know. It's worth it if you want. If you got extra money to throw around, get one. Otherwise, you're probably not going to need it. This is an Instamic, and I absolutely love this thing. It is such a great little microphone / recording device. Number one, it's waterproof. So should I need to be in the rain recording something, I can use it. I've never had that, you know, I've never been in the rain where I needed to record clean sound, but I guess I could with this thing. Number two, it's magnetic, which is sweet. It actually comes with a little rubberized magnet, so you can put it behind the shirt and then clip it like that. I think it has 16 gigabytes internal storage and it records in 32-bit float. So this thing is another set it and forget it piece of audio kit that I absolutely love. It works with the app. You can operate it just by pressing the buttons on here. And you'll get some lights and it'll kind of show you what's happening. But I like to use the app just because I feel like it's a more secure connection and I know that it's recording. Sometimes my fat fingers aren't the best things with these tiny little gadgets. So don't make this the first piece of kit you get, but if you're looking for the backup of all backups, this is it for audio. So my main external audio recorder is the G.U.M F3. This thing is amazing. It is, of course, 32-bit float capable, runs off of AA batteries. Obviously it has to have a sticker on it, or that I wouldn't know it was mine. It has XLR inputs, and it's another set it and forget it. It honestly only records in 32-bit float audio, and it's so basic. You basically turn it on, and you plug it in, and you see a signal that's running. I do always listen to my signal, so I have headphones with this thing at all time in my bag. Get, you know, the DJ to give you a quick test, and you know, it's recording, walk away. It's gonna record it no matter what the levels are. DJs are notorious for needing to crank up the volume or lower the volume based on who's speaking, but it's not their job to adjust the volume on the input to your recorder. So the best thing you can do for yourself and for the DJ, honestly, is to record in 32-bit float. So you can just tell him like, hey man, once this thing is rolling, I'm just gonna let it roll the rest of the ceremony, or I'm just gonna set it up in the beginning of the reception, hit record and let it roll the rest of the night. Then I don't even have to worry. I know I'm always getting a clean feed from the microphone. It's tiny. Look how small this thing is. I mean, it's not even close to the size of my hand. It doesn't take up much room on the DJ's setup, so they love that. It's super light. It can even dangle from a speaker if it needs to, and it's not gonna damage the cable or the speaker. But most of the time, I'll just plug it into the soundboard wherever the DJ allows me to plug it in. Remember to ask your DJ to plug you in if you can. Don't just go plug in your stuff in without any permission. Plug it in anywhere I need, just set it down, hit record, and walk away, and I'm good to go. Okay, little accessory that I am obsessed with, and basically like Frank's Red Hot, I put this shit on everything, are these little cable whips. It just makes me happy in my soul. I have lots of cables, you will too, shooting video, and they're super simple. They work just like this. You just loop it through and pull this down just like it's a jacket tie down. That's it, and then it keeps it nice and snug, and I can just throw this back in my bag. Again, I'm all about making it easy for me to just chuck stuff around and not worry about it. Okay, so basically in this bag, I have all of my connections I need for the Zoom F3 headphones, okay? I've got XLR to 1/4 inch. That's a pretty common one that you definitely want. Of course, I have XLR to XLR. That's probably the most common and most professional connection. I also have a couple of USB-C cables in here for if I need to power things. And then the good old-fashioned RCA cables. Some of the DJs are still using these things, and it's just nice to have an assortment in case they are out of options for you. A lot of times they will have open RCA connections, even if they've used pretty much all the XLR inputs, outputs on their board. Again, I'm not a sound expert. I don't know a lot about it. I just know that I've been asked for all these cables at different times, and so whenever I hadn't had one, I make a note and I go out and buy it so that I have it the next time. So just a quick refresh: XLR to XLR, XLR to RCA, and XLR to 1/4 inch, and you should be set. Oh, I was talking about those USB-C cables earlier. My cameras, Sony's, will run off of a power brick like this. This is just an Anker one. I have no idea what size it is, but I do know that I've never ever actually run this all the way out of power. In a very, very big pinch, or if I have to film something like super long, like if we're doing a ceremony that's gonna be 2-3 hours long, like an Indian ceremony or something, I will hang this, power brick from I'll put a whiskey bag around it or something and just hang it from my tripod, and then just plug in the USB-C to my camera, and it'll run as long as the batteries last, which is a long, long time. So these are a dime a dozen now. This one's probably 10 years old, so I know they have better ones at this point, but just get a power brick and chuck it in your bag. This cable is just stupid important to me. I buy these 2 or 3 at a time because I always break them and I always lose them for some reason. This is the USB-C to Sony multi cable. This is what allows me to control start, stop, record on my camera from the gimbal. So, back in the old days when I was running, manual gimbals, I used to have to press record on the top all the time, and it always the beginning of each clip is going to be a little bit shaky. You don't want to shoot a wedding without it because it's an even bigger pain in the neck than spending whatever the money is on these cables. So highly recommend just getting a couple of these cables. Shotgun mics. This one's great. I love it. It's the Sony one. I'll put the name in the description. I don't remember what the name is. But it is a digital signal. So it doesn't have to plug into the microphone jack on your camera. It actually communicates via the hot shoe here. The noise cancellation on this is pretty good. I've used it in rooms with loud air conditioning, for instance, when the bride is reading a letter to her husband or something, and it's cut it out pretty decent. Obviously, the editors are gonna do the rest of it, but if you can give them a leg up by having a microphone like this, it's great. It is powered through the hot shoe, so I don't have to worry about batteries for this thing. I just plug it into the camera and it's great. This is kind of sweet because it comes with a little windscreen too, and it works pretty good outside. So again, shotgun mics are not our thing, really. We rely on the lav mics and the external recorders, but in a pinch, this thing will do the trick. Lights. This is my favorite, Aperture 60X. This thing is awesome for a lot of reasons. Before I get into that though, I want to talk about why we need lights. With cameras being so sensitive now and having decent low light performance, you might be tempted to just crank the ISO on your camera and use available light for toasts and for dances. And I've definitely done that a lot in my time, but I can't stress enough, if you can fit a couple of lights into your bag, it will make your footage look 10 times better. I've used giant lights, I've used really small LEDs. I've been kind of searching for a happy medium, and I think this is it right here. This, honestly, I would consider this a large light just because look at it next to my head. It's pretty big and pretty heavy, but the reason behind it is totally worth it. So first of all, it's called the Aperture 60X. I'll put a link. And the best part about this is it is a focusable beam. So it has a Fresnel lens in here, which means you can focus it from spotlight to floodlight. And it's got a pretty wide spread at flood and a pretty nice spotlight on the spot side, but it's also color temperature changeable, and it's powered by V-mount batteries. I don't want to have any cables running to outlets at the reception. I don't want to have any reason for people to trip over my gear. They can trip over somebody else's gear if they want. I like to power these by V-mount batteries. This is a huge brick of a V-mount battery, but it's nice because it holds a big charge and because it'll run this light for the entire night. So it just clips on here. That's how V-mounts work. Boom, like so, okay? And then this just plugs in. Boom, like so. So now it's totally powered by this V-mount battery. All you gotta do is stick it right on a light stand. It's pretty sweet. I'll turn it on, and you can kind of see the pattern back there, right? So if I take it, that's flood, right? And that's pretty close. I mean, obviously you wouldn't have this light that close to your subject anyways, but I like it because I can bring it down to spot if I want and have these lights super far away and hit just what I want them to hit. And I'm not like disturbing all the guests, or if I want to like light the cake for a cool shot, the light doesn't have to be right up in your face anymore. One thing that I really try to avoid in my footage, if possible, is my own gear. I don't want to see any shots when I come home where I didn't notice that my own bag was on the ground behind the bride and groom, or I try to limit when you can see my light stands. You know, I just don't like seeing gear. I feel like, you know, the couple paid for beautiful venues for a reason. They didn't pay for your, you know, giant black light stand to be in every shot of their first dance. So, you know, in addition to moving around and avoiding that when I can, I like powerful lights like this one that can light my subject, but from far away. Okay, another light. We're talking about small LEDs earlier. I love this little light. This is the Godox M1. It's just in a tiny little LED light. It's pretty powerful. It's USB-C chargeable. I'll turn it on. That's pretty low. I mean, you're gonna see like this thing is bright. But it's kind of cool because it's also RGB. So if you have any kind of like set where you just want to have, you know, a green wall in the background or blue or red or whatever color, it's easy to use this and kind of get some color contrast. It's kind of fun. Also, let me turn this off so that it doesn't, look, that's pretty trippy. Okay, most of the time I have this light on my camera at the very end of the night when it's just open dancing and I'm trying to get some good reactions of people on the dance floor. It's kind of cool because it's got this little, you know, cold shoe mount, so it'll stick right on your camera. And there's something about having a small light on your camera that gets people to react better than if you have your big lights pointed on the dance floor when people are trying to get down. When we're getting open dancing shots, it's super important to make sure you get people's faces. I can't stand when I come home from thinking I got great dancing shots. You know, I'm doing all these like super complicated moves with my gimbal, trying to make it look awesome on the dance floor, but it's just a bunch of people's backs and it doesn't really show the couple like who was doing what on the dance floor. But a lot of people, after a couple of cocktails, they see this light and they're a superstar. So they're gonna do something for you that's probably gonna be worthwhile putting in the video later. So highly recommend Godox M1. There's a lot of these little mini LED lights out there, but this one's pretty solid and hasn't broken on me yet. So last but not least in my bag is the drone. DJI Air 2S, love this drone, super capable. 5.7K sensor on it, good color, fast, easy to put up and down in a hurry. Basically, we use drones for our weddings to set the scene. So highly dislike the gimbal cover on these things. For our weddings, especially as a solo videographer, we're only expecting you to use the drone to set the scene. So what I mean by that is getting establishing shots of the venue, you know, straight above the ceremony site, coming in from over the ocean to establish, you know, a general idea of where this venue is located for the video. We use our drone shots a lot of times in the titles of the video. Okay, light stands. Really, my only requirement of light stands is that they're sturdy, easy to operate, and tall. I mean, it's a stand. There's not a lot to talk about it. I like these Manfrotto ones because they go pretty tall. They also have a pretty wide base, and I do like that they click together so that it's like one less thing rattling around in my bag. But honestly, any any quality light stand that you get that's not gonna bend or drop or fall is fine by me. It doesn't matter. If you have 2 lights, you need 2 light stands. If you have 1, you need 1. So get yourself some light stands. Probably the most important thing in my bag as far as camera movement is my gimbal / monopod setup. I use the DJI RS2 gimbal and I connect it to an iFootage monopod, and I absolutely love it this way. It is such a great combination because it's easy to rest the monopod down when I need to just set the gimbal down. Perfect example is I'm up front at the beginning of the ceremony. I see everyone come down to the front of the altar. The bride comes down, her father hands her off to the groom. I slowly kind of pan out to the side and walk backwards around the outside of the ceremony site. And then I'll just stick the monopod right in the center of the aisle at the back of the wedding. And now I can go and double check my B and C cameras to make sure that they're pointing at something worthwhile. The gimbal on the monopod is nice because it's not on the floor like it used to be if I didn't have the monopod, so I'm not shooting up people's noses. And honestly, it's got pretty stable feet. So as long as I don't have it extended to its full height, it's pretty solid, and I'll just sit it there and kind of like wait for a second to make sure that it's not gonna fall. You can actually get better feet, like wider feet for your monopod if you want, but I like to stay as small of a footprint as possible so that I can kind of get around people when I need to. The other purpose of the monopod is tall shots or really low shots. I'm getting older, and if you're like me, you don't want to spend all day bending down trying to get a shot with the gimbal, rolling right along the grass down the ceremony aisle, or getting people's feet as they're dancing, or whatever reasons you want low shots. And then tall shots, it's super nice because I can just extend that thing, hold it out like a glorified crane shot, and I can just kind of like pan it over top of big crowds of people dancing and stuff. This gives you a lot more versatility in your gimbal, but it saves your back. That's the main reason I got it. It saves my back. I don't have to bend down to get those low shots. I don't have to, stress too much with the tall shots. I can just stretch that thing out and kind of hold it like I'm going deep sea fishing. So I think the gimbal has a place, but super steady, solid shots are the most important thing and always will be. Check your composition, look at your background, make sure everything's in focus, don't shake the camera. And it's so easy to do that with the monopod. I'm not worried about holding it steady. I'm literally sitting it on the ground in front of me, and then if I want, I can just pan with that little thumbstick and it's super smooth. Cannot recommend that enough. Do the monopod gimbal combination. Might look a little weird at first, might be a little weird trying to learn it, but once you have it, you will never go back. Okay, a couple honorable mentions. I talked about lavalier microphones earlier, and this is basically the tried and true, the Tascam DR10L. These things are basically tried and true in the wedding industry. You probably already have these, or if you don't, you were thinking about getting them. They're great. You can get 2 of these for a price of one of the tentacle sinks. But they will not record 32-bit float audio. What they do is they record a safety track, which I think the safety track is like 10 decibels lower than the gain setting that you set it on. So I would always set this to like medium high, and I knew that if the groom got a little excited or something and it got too loud, I always had something lower than that. But I didn't want to go lower than medium high because it's going to be too quiet. So great little recorder, records locally to a micro SD card. Still using these everywhere. Notice that it still has that professional screw-in connection for the microphone, which I love. So another honorable mention are these Rode Wireless Go 2s. I know this kind of goes against what I was saying earlier because these are transmitting a signal to a receiver. So basically you get 2 transmitters and 1 receiver, and it's a nice little package. You can see it just fits in this basically pencil case size thing. They're USB-C charged. They come with little clips on the back, and these little clips are also the same size as your hot shoe on your camera, so you can actually slide this in. I guess you'd actually be sliding the receiver in, so that's how you mount it. And then as soon as you turn on the transmitter, it actually begins recording locally to itself. I think it has like 8 gigabytes internal storage. It doesn't record true 32-bit float audio. You can convert it to that later, which makes no sense to me, but it's still a super strong signal, and you can do a safety track on this, which is nice, similar to the Tascam. But these are kind of cool because they record even if you don't have a microphone plugged in. So if you can see, there's actually like a little microphone on top of the actual pack itself. So some people, you've probably seen on YouTube too, where they'll just like clip this to the outside of their shirt and this is their actual microphone. So this will transmit straight to the camera and get super clean audio that way, and also back up its own recording locally to itself. Now, it doesn't have like SD cards in here or micro SD cards, so it will record over itself. So you do have to kind of, dump all of it when you get home and then count on, keeping that somewhere safe. But honestly, I've never had an issue where I recorded over something important because I back everything up. They're pretty sweet. Their downfall is it doesn't have the screw-in connection. It just has like the basic headphone jack. And again, I have seen these come loose. It's hard to do, but I've seen it come loose and be detached. And although this will record from this little microphone here when it's detached, it doesn't do you a lot of good when it's on the inside pocket of a groom's jacket. Just gonna sound like muffled nothing. So actually comes with these little locking windscreens on here that you can see that thing is locked on pretty tight. So again, for something like an elopement or anything outside in a pinch, if you don't have the Instamic or you don't want to buy one of those Sony recorders, these are kind of sweet for a dual purpose. You can just keep them in your pocket. They're pretty small and you could just clip it, on the groom's jacket if you wanted to read a letter or something. Of course, you're going to notice it. I like these a lot. I don't use them much anymore because I have the tentacle syncs and I just trust the 32-bit float audio a lot more. But I do use these in controlled environments. I use these like when I'm doing, commercial interviews or something and I'm just sitting behind a camera that's on a tripod and I'm monitoring the audio anyways. It is nice to have it just pipe directly into your camera and you don't have to sync it up later. So that's just another option for audio. This stuff, this dental gum, I'm pretty sure it's used to like put on the outside of sharp braces so they don't cut the insides of your teeth. But it's great because I use it for ring shots. We almost always do ring shots. The photographers usually set them up. But if I'm by myself or I don't know the photographer and they don't want to do ring shots or they don't shoot them at night like we usually do, then I'll just grab a little pinch of this stuff, stick it on the table. And if I have a ring that's particularly top heavy or has like a unique design where it doesn't balance on itself very easily, I can stick it right into that gum and it will hold steady and balance like magic. It saved me a ton of time. I don't like to be gone for too long with the bride and groom's rings for many reasons. But I also like to just get my shot done the way that I want it to be, and it's a lot easier to kind of customize it when you have this stuff on hand. So stick it in your pack. You may use it, you may not, but it doesn't take up much space and it can be handy. Another couple of mentions, Tide pens, Tide stain pens. I've actually used these quite a bit at weddings for myself and for even the bride. Sometimes you'll see like makeup gets on white dresses, or a lot of times makeup from like the bride's face will get on like a white shirt for the groom. And those Tide pens do like an amazing job at taking that kind of stuff out, wine spills, that kind of stuff. Small, obviously, but you can be the savior. You can be the hero if you have that on hand when somebody needs a stain out in a hurry. Okay, and then my absolute last tip for the day is bring an extra set of clothes. It sounds ridiculous. Bring an extra set of pants and an extra shirt for the wedding day. You're dressed up nice. You've got a collared shirt on. You've got, dress pants, which are usually pretty thin and not super durable. I'll just give you an example. I was about 2 hours into a 7-hour wedding one day, and I bent down to pick up some champagne for the bride and groom. I was going to be like, hey, cheers, we're done with the first look. Have some champagne. I bend down, I tear my pants right up the crack about this far, okay? It was horrible, and everyone heard it. I mean, it wasn't like I was in front of a huge crowd, but like the bride and groom heard it, and a couple of the groomsmen heard it. And after that, I was like fresh meat to the lions. I didn't have a set of pants to change into. I was just getting started at the wedding. Luckily, I was wearing black pants and black underwear. It would have been a real mess. But those groomsmen were like trailing me as I was flapping in the wind. Everywhere I went, they were pointing out the fact that my butt was hanging out in the back of my pants. And so I had to there's nothing I could do but just own up to it. I had to just call myself out on it ahead of time when I was going to meet new people for photos and be like, oh yeah, I don't know if you noticed, but my pants are ripped all the way up back. Luckily, it's, good circulation. I don't even remember what I said, some BS, but I was embarrassed the entire day. So trust me, that sucks. Avoid that at all costs. Put an extra pair of pants and an extra shirt in your car. You'll probably never need them, but if you do, you'll be super thankful you got them. Okay, that's it. I know it was a super long video, so thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you got some good information out of it. I will be making some other videos in the future talking about how I use this equipment at actual weddings and kind of going through the thought process of what to use and when. But until then, if you have any questions on any of the stuff I went over today, feel free to leave it in the comments below, and I will see you in the next video.